Welcome to Brands Hatch for the Teekay Couplings Production GTI Cup. Championship leader Simon Hill starting in 9th position, but he could wrap up the title in the first race. Simon, interesting predicament that you're in. You could wrap up the title by this first race.
Yeah, we just had a few issues this morning with sort of gear selection problems. I don't know if we've got a clutch issue or not, but it was still pretty slippy. So we'll just see what happens in this race. I think, not having looked at the points with any great accuracy, I think I just need to stay out of trouble and score some points. I think it's pretty much done then, but I'm not going to think about it too much. Just going to drive as I always have done and do what I can.
Well, that's what we're hoping to see a good race out there. I think you've only lost one race so far this year, so puts you in good position. And yeah, it's just a case of keeping it on the black stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, we wish you all the best of luck out there, and hopefully we'll have a chat with you after the race. With that, it's over to our commentary team to take you through the grid for the first of today's 2 races.
Thanks, Lloyd. Damp and overcast conditions here at Brands Hatch, but it shouldn't dampen the spirits of the drivers on the final weekend of Production GTI, with Simon Verco on pole for the first time alongside outgoing champion James Colburn. Then Maudsley and Hart's come next from Graham Hurd and Dawn Boyd, John Beale and James Howlison. Champion-elect Simon Hill back in 9th position from Richard Marsh, Martin Walsh and Ryan Sayer to round out the 12-car Mark 5 entry. Then we go a couple of rows back to the Mark 2s. Tim Hartland on pole with Pete Milne and Chris Webb behind him. Then Spencer Beale, Luke Hardman, Matthew Rhodes, the newcomer, and Ian Webb, father of Chris, rounding out the entry. So 19 cars for the first of 2 races, 20 minutes on the clock. There is rain in the air and on the camera lens. How much is that going to affect conditions here at Brands Hatch? Let's find out as we go racing. Strong start for the Mark 5s, who all scrabble off the line. They're almost 4 abreast on the run down towards Paddock Hill Bend as Martin Walsh slips past Richard Marsh. Graham Hurd does likewise on Simon Hill. He's not getting involved in any trouble into Paddock Hill Bend, but it's happened already. Round goes John Beale in the middle of the pack. Through he goes, and there's Spencer Beale trying to avoid his father, and off into the gravel trap goes Spencer Beale. So both of the Beale siblings are in trouble. John Beale's car in the middle of the road, Spencer Beale's car off in the gravel trap. So Simon Verco leads the way, John Maudsley in 2nd place, followed by Adam Hartz and James Colburn. And side by side already between Graham Hurd and Dawn Boyd. A little bit of rubbing, but Graham Hurd survives, but he's lost 1 spot, make it 2, and it could be 3 because Simon Hill's gone through and Ryan Sayer, who we were on board with, has also tried to slip past as well. So the leaders already up into Surtees for the first time and up through clearways, but there are safety car boards and flags out already, so we haven't even completed a lap in this first race here at Brands Hatch, and we are under safety car conditions, full course yellow. And they will all have to line up behind the BMW safety car that you see in the middle of the screen. And there's the recovery truck pulling Spencer Beale's car to the infield, so it may well be the end of his race. The safety car will already be racing ahead with its lights out back towards pit lane. But now the responsibility of Simon Verco is to decide when is the best chance for him to restart this race, because he'll either get a good jump and cause everyone off guard, or he may well see cars coming with him in a position that may not be so surprising. Looks as though he's put his foot down already, and I think he may have caught them slightly napping. He's put a good gap on this restart, so they come back down the Jack Brabham straight, past the pits, and back to green flag racing once again. And immediately go on the attack for 2nd place goes Adam Hartz, but the Grand Prix Grand Tours number 7 maintains the place. They turn their way through Paddock Hill Bend at racing speeds. There's a bit of a wiggle from Maudsley on the exit. This might now give Hartz the chance to move up the inside. Hartz puts 2 wheels onto the grass almost, and here comes James Colburn round the outside over number 1. Now, if he can't get through on the exit here, he'll be on the inside line for Graham Hill Bend, and he gets the traction on the exit and moves through into 3rd place. So that was a bold pass, and I think it caught Adam Hartz a little bit off guard because he was so focused on trying to get past John Maudsley, he wasn't looking in his mirrors to see James Colburn scything up behind him. So into 3rd place now goes Colburn, on the tail of Maudsley already. Let's see if he can pick up another place before the end of a lap. Simon Verco, meanwhile, taking that wide line, because as we've seen at the start of the race on the camera lens, there was a little bit of rain in the air, and I suspect it may well continue drizzling as the circuit is not completely dry. There are still damp and greasy patches out there from the rain that we've had over the course of the day so far, and there are more spots of rain on the camera now, so I think it is starting to rain a little bit more as they turn their way into Paddock Hill Bend down the hill, and that's tricky at the best of times in the dry. Now, I think the car in front of them, that looks to be, that's our Mark 5 Championship leader Simon Hill, I think, as they come to Graham Hill Bend. Indeed it is. So Simon Hill, I think he's possibly struggling. It could be the clutch problem he was mentioning on the exit of qualifying into race 1, as Chris Webb almost gets up the inside of Pete Milne into Surtees. And here is Chris Webb's father Ian. He's in combat now with Spencer Beale, as the pair have just let Adam Hart and James Colburn through. So Spencer Beale on the recovery trail, up the inside and past Ian Webb. I think that will be for position, because I'm not sure Spencer lost a lap. Well, he may have done, but even so, he's at the very least unlapping himself. And now Dawn Boyd watches on. She watches Martin Walsh split the Mark IIs into Graham Hill Bend. Meanwhile, back at the front, this guy, we haven't really spoken about him too much because he's been dominating at the lead of the race. Simon Verco, who is in his first full season of production GTI racing in the Mark V class, really has been a find for the championship, because he's certainly developed his pace throughout the year and gotten stronger and stronger. And one of his stronger performances was in mixed conditions at Anglesey, when he was able to keep on the tail of one Simon Hill for most of that race. Simon did win, but Simon Verco was able to hold on for the most part and pick up his, at the time, best result of the season, and indeed his production GTI career, with second place. That's Adam Hart going up the inside of Tim Hartland, so that's not the only championship contender struggling for pace, because not only is the Mark V leader Simon Hill off the pace, but so is Tim Hartland. But I think possibly he's just keeping out of trouble as well. So I think the Mark II battle will go into the last race of the season, because both Pete Milne and Chris Webb will certainly be taking points away from Tim Hartland in this race, with whatever order they'll finish, first or second between them. And Luke Harburn, of course, is in third place, so no podium finish for either of our championship leaders. As Simon Verco makes his way onto the pit straight to complete another lap and up towards Paddock Hill Bend now for the last time in this first race of the weekend here at Brands Hatch in the Teekay Couplings Production GTI Championship finale. Simon Verco certainly has been threatening over the season, but it's great to see a culmination of all his efforts in 2019. And I think it looks as though it's going to be a first victory for Simon in this championship. There's John Maudsley, who has recovered after his excursion at Paddock Hill Bend. He was battling there with the slightly wounded Graham Hurd. And this is Adam Hart, so I think he's just a little too far away to bother Simon Verco in these last couple of laps. He has put in some quick lap times, but it's just too little too late. Now then, this could be a battle to the finish, because we've got Pete Milne and Chris Webb together into Paddock Hill Bend. And Chris Webb tries to put Pete Milne under pressure, who locks up into Paddock. They go down the hill, and Chris Webb tries to squeeze his way up the outside line to go up towards Druids for the last time. Matthew Rhodes in front of them, but meanwhile to the checkered flag, Simon Verco takes his first Teekay Couplings Production GTI win in the Mark V class. It's second place to Adam Hart and third to James Colburn to round out the podium. And here is confirmation of the result. There is your race winner, Simon Verco. And here's how they all managed to get to the flag. Simon Verco wins from Adam Hart's in second place. Then Colburn, Walsh, Dawn Boyd, Ryan Sayer, Richard Marsh and James Howelson. Chris Webb did take the Mark II win on the last lap from Pete Milne. But there in 11th place is your Mark V champion. He's dominated most of the season. Simon Hill is the champion for Mark Vs in production GTIs. But here is Lloyd with our winners on the podium.
Simon, congratulations on your win. That first lap was a little bit action-packed. Talk us through what was happening.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I got a decent start, and that first lap was literally just judging what the conditions were like. Being the front car, it was difficult. I seemed to have them sort of all over my back for that first lap. But once I got to know the conditions of the track from lap 1 on, I seemed to pull a nice gap and maintain that the whole race.
Yeah, the track seemed to be drying out. There seemed to be a good dry line coming through. And as you say, it seemed to come to you a bit more. Didn't feel much pressure towards the end?
A little bit. The last couple of laps, I seen him sort of getting back on me. But I say it was the same. Being the lead car, it was difficult to sort of judge where the grip was, where the grip wouldn't. This is my first race on the track, so I haven't really done a lot around it, wet or dry. So I'm still finding the best lines for myself, either condition. So, but I'll say, yeah, we got there in the end. So I was happy to see the checkered flag.
Well, congratulations, and we look forward to seeing more of you out there in the second race.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you.
Chris, congratulations on your victory in class. tough racing out there, particularly the opening lap where there seem to be cars going off all over the place.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah, it felt like it anyway.
How did you manage to avoid what was going on?
I don't know. It was. I was quite lucky. I jinked to the right, and I went on the grass. There was a Mark 5 in the middle of the circuit, I think, at that moment. I think Spencer got a little bit unlucky. I think he went the other side and ended up in the gravel. So it was just luck. I managed to get around the trouble, and on the restart, I had a Mark 5 between me and the next Mark 2. So it just gave me a bit of breathing space when it restarted. Yeah.
Which was just what you needed to go ahead and take the victory. Hoping for, well, I'm guessing you're probably not hoping for another incident in the second race, but hoping for another victory.
Definitely, and a dry race, please.
Well, we'll see what we can do to the weather gods, but congratulations once again on your class win.
That's very kind. Thank you.
It's the final race of the weekend at Brands Hatch for the Teekay Couplings Production GTI Championship, and with us is Mark II champion-elect. Is that the best way to describe it? Tim Hartland. Tim, final race. It's been a tough year. Pretty much championship sewn up now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's done. I think I just had to finish the last race, basically, the previous race. So I just tootled round and finished it because it was wet and slippery, and I didn't want to end up in a gravel trap. So I can give it a go this time. So I was pretty embarrassing last time. So I'm looking forward to giving it a go this time.
Challenging the boys up in front, which could be quite interesting given the conditions that we're seeing now.
Yeah, I mean, this place is really slippery anyway, and you don't need to make much of a mistake. And the problem is, it's gravel traps everywhere. So once you're off, you're stuck. So yeah, it'll be really good. I'm really looking forward to it. But anyway, by my reckoning, the championship's sorted. So if I end up in the gravel trap, I end up in the gravel trap.
Just go out there and have some fun for the last race.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time. I wish you all the best out there. And with that, it's over to the commentary team to take you through the grid.
Thanks, Lloyd. The cars lining up for the final time in 2019, and here's how they line up. Simon Verco and Adam Hartz on the front row of the grid, from James Colburn and Martin Walsh, then Dawn Boyd and Ryan Sayer, followed by Richard Marsh and James Howlison. John Maudsley, Graham Hurd and John Beale make up the Mark 5s, with champion Simon Hill sitting on the sidelines to preserve his championship status, so congratulations to him. Mark 2s will see race 1 winner Chris Webb on pole position. Alongside him is Pete Milne. Then it's Luke Harberman and Tim Hartland, Ian Webb, Matthew Rhodes and Spencer Beale. And Tim Hartland, all he has to do is score the points he needs to wrap up the Mark II title for sure. So for the last time in 2019, we're all set to get underway. 15 minutes of production GTI action all set to go, and we are underway. Clean start from the first few rows. Dawn Boyd trying to grab a gear as she loses a couple of spots off the line. Ryan Sayer trying to muscle his way past James Colburn into Paddock Hill Bend, but it's Adam Hartz who leads the way from Simon Verco in second place. So the pole sitter and race 1 winner is down to second. Third place for Martin Walsh. The Mark 5s head their way up towards Druids for the first time. As for the Mark 2s, looking back, looks to me as if I think Pete Milne's got it, as both running wide go Adam Hartz and Simon Verco. Up the inside goes Martin Walsh for the lead. And we're back with Tim Hartland, champion-elect in the Mark 2s, but he's already behind Chris Webb as they head into Graham Hill Bend for the first time. Everyone together. This is now Ryan Sayer's view, looking at the back of James Colburn. And he's now still trying to get past Ryan Sayer if he can, or Martin Walsh in front of him. And then it's Adam Hartz who still continues to lead the way on this first. That's Simon Verco, who's down to 5th position off the start. It could be 6th if he's not careful, because up the inside will go Dawn Boyd to find the grip if she can. Martin Walsh, meanwhile, is getting a great slingshot from Clark Curve down the Jack Brabham straight. He fires it down the outside and into the lead past Hartz on the run towards Paddock Hill Bend at the end of lap 1. So a fantastic exit from Clark Curve gives Martin Walsh the lead. It's Hartz in second place, Colburn in third. Then Ryan Sayer is remaining in 4th position. That's one of his better starts of the season. Simon Verco, yet the earlier race winner from this morning, is down to 5th position. 6th is Dawn Boyd, but she's under threat from James Howlison and Graham Hurd, and also a recovering John Maudsley. Maudsley up the inside of Howlison at the top of the screen. We're back on board with Adam Hartz, keeping Martin Walsh in his eyesight firmly as they come down Cooper Straight towards the left-hander at Surtees. And up through McLaren and through Clearways. Battle on between Graham Hurd with a very battered right-hand side of that car. That's after he took the whack from a spinning John Beale at the start of race 1, and that car maybe not handling as well as it should do, particularly in these still greasy conditions. There's no rain coming down, but there's still a little bit of moisture around from races where we've had rain earlier on during the weekend, so not the easiest of conditions, particularly when it's not completely dry. James Howison putting the number 7 of John Maudsley under threat. Now these two, of course, have already had a spin both up here at Paddock Hill Bend, but this time keeping their cars firmly pointing in the right direction this time. Both are chasing down Dawn Boyd, who is chasing down our race 1 winner Simon Verco. So how great would it be for Dawn Boyd to round off the season with another top 5 finish to take the confidence into next year? Into Graham Hill Bend she goes, still keeping on the tail of Simon Verco, with Ryan Sayer just in front in 4th position. So in that season-long battle between Boyd and Sayer, Sayer's winning this one in race 2, whereas it was Sayer in front, or behind Dawn Boyd, forgive me. Meanwhile, John Maudsley and James Howison still going at it on the recovery trail after their shaky first races. John Maudsley arguably has got more pace over the weekend than James Howison, but in these slightly trickier conditions, drier but still very greasy, it could be pace advantage Howison as he looks to the outside line of Maudsley. It's a drag race down towards Paddock Hill Bend. Howison gets his nose in front momentarily, but Maudsley later on the brakes into Paddock, and he keeps the position. So he now still slots into what is now 6th position. 7th place for James Howison. Looks to be just behind Richard Marsh there, and also in a battle of their own are Graham Hurd and John Beale. And of course, those two were very well acquainted at the start of race 1. So there's the Mark 5 field pouring its way down towards Graham Hill Bend. We're back on board with Ryan Sayer. The glaring rain light on the back of James Colburn's car. Unfortunately, we'll have to give up the number 1 next year. Of course, that will go to Simon Hill. And now down the hill towards Graham Hill Bend. Break in a straight line. Pitch the car left. Little clip of curb as they come through it there as Martin Walsh continues to lead the way. Now he has pulled away now from Adam Hartz. So what was quite a tight gap between them has now seen Adam Hartz drop back. Now into the clutches of Simon Verco in 3rd place. So here's your top 3. James Colburn has just dropped away slightly. There he is in the background in 4th place. Not really able to keep exact pace with the top 3, but he is keeping them in sight. So there's still a little glimmer of hope for him to score a podium in the last race. But it's great to see a couple of different podiums here. We've usually seen Simon Hill at the top of it. We've usually also seen James Colburn on the podium every time. But good to see some different drivers on the rostrum this weekend. And a different race winner in Simon Verco. We could be getting our 4th different race winner because James Colburn's had a victory, as has also, of course, Simon Hill, who's won all but one of the races coming into this weekend. And Simon Verco, of course, won the first race earlier on. Now race 2, it looks as though at the moment the signs are either pointing to Martin Walsh or Adam Hartz. We're on the last lap of the race now, putting a lap on Spencer Beale. This could be crucial if they can pick their way through. Walsh gets through, Hartz takes his time, and this could put Simon Verco with his tail up right onto the tail of a 22. Into Druids they go for the last time. They've all slipped past Spencer Beale, but I think Martin Walsh has got enough now left in reserve to hold on to this lead and pick up his first win of the season. So into Graham Hill Bend, onto the Cooper Straight for the last time. The windscreen wipers are still going, but the weather is still fairly better than it was earlier on when we had a slightly more significant rain shower. And Adam Hartz takes one last dive up towards Clearways to try and get the move done. He's all over the back end of Martin Walsh. He struggles for traction on the exit as Hartz puts his foot down. This could be a drag race to finish the 2019 season. But Adam Hartz, as try as he might, will not be able to get through. And so it's 4 different winners in 2019 in the Teekay Couplings Production GTI Championship. Martin Walsh wins the final race of the year from second place man Adam Hartz and third place to Simon Verco. Meanwhile, back with the Mark IIs, it is going to be Chris Webb who will turn his way into the right-hander at Clearways. He should get third place if he can hold on ahead of a very feisty Matthew Rhodes. As up to the checkered flag, Pete Milne will come across the line to win the Mark II race. Second place and the title will go to Tim Hartland, and Chris Webb does just about hold off Matthew Rhodes in the run to the flag for third. Rest of the field comes across the line, and here's confirmation of the result of the final race of 2019. There is your race winner on screen, Martin Walsh, and he wins by 7/10 of a second from Adam Hartz and Simon Verco. Meanwhile, on the second page, you'll see that Pete Milne wins the Mark IIs. But congratulations to our title winners, Simon Hill and Tim Hartland. And here for the final time this season, Lloyd is with our winners in Mark 2 and Mark 5 here at Brands Hatch.
Well, that's the look of someone who's thoroughly enjoyed themselves out there on track today. Martin, congratulations on your victory. That was epic.
It was fantastic, honestly. I just said earlier, I'm not normally very good in the wet, so that's taken me completely by surprise. I'm absolutely overjoyed, and I've got to give credit to the boys that put the car together. Jabba, they are absolutely brilliant. They make me look good.
Well done, Peter. Congratulations on your race victory out there in the Mark IIs. Tough racing out there, particularly with the champion, Tim.
Absolutely. I think we all had different setups, and it was a question of what the weather did. So that was a bit, everyone's doing their best to make a decision, and it came off for us today. It was, it's just amazing. I was so pleased with the boys because they've worked like Trojans this weekend just to get the car ready. So yeah, it's been great.
And great fun on the last couple of laps as well.
Oh, the whole race had its ups and downs. I think I was second after the first corner or two, and then worked my way back. And yeah, it was manic, really, wasn't it? It was to-ing and fro-ing, and when it was wet, I was really in charge. And when it started to dry, I thought, right, I need to get in the trenches and button down here. So yeah, it was emotional.
Brilliant. And Tim, that was a long cry from just keeping it on the island and making sure you didn't go off track. You were really out there for the victory.
Yeah, well, the thing was, I needed a finish this morning to wrap up the championship, and I was beyond pathetic. I mean, my mum could have done a better job than I did this morning. I was literally just cruising around. It was terrible. So I decided that this time I wanted to give it a proper go. And it was a great race, and I thought I had Pete, and I should have known that if I left half a car's gap, Pete would be in there, and he was. So, yeah, it was a great race, though. Really enjoyed it.